There we go. So when we look at where we're at, we started this project with this guy here. This is the one where the head is separate. And let me grab one out of here. This is the one where the head's on there. Let me raise that camera just a little bit. It looks a little low. It looks a little better. We seem to have got more camera space there. So that's what we started out with right here. Not right there. That's a carved one. Started out with this one here, and we're working on that's the one we're finished. This is the one we're working on. So we've done the legs, we've done the feet, done the arms, done the back, buttocks, penciled in the other things we want. Here's this belt, which we carry around here. It's got the belt loops right here, the belt buckle right there. It's got a big belly on and stick out right there. We'll work today on, because we basically got this, we've got all this done except for all the details. You could certainly add a whole lot more wrinkles and bulges and whatever you need to do to get that looking like you want. But that's where we've left off today. Move again. Alright, so we've left off with that. Homework would be go between now and then and get all this other stuff done. I don't know if you're carving along with me or if you're just watching and then going to go carve a little bit later where you can slow and back and forth and back and forth. But the goal today was to get the head finished and get that carved and start working on the separate head. And in the next meeting, the fourth one, we'd be able to finish and paint, because there's different steps on all of those. So knowing that, hopefully you'll get some time in the next little bit to work on the shoes, to work on the legs, to work on the hands in the pockets, the elbows, the belt, the shirt. We haven't decided exactly what we're going to do with the shirt, although one of the attendees said she wanted me to put a bow tie and suspenders on. So we're going to give that a whirl and see if we can figure it out. So I've got a bow tie drawn in, and then we've got underneath that we've got some collar up here. And the question we've got to run is that this is where the face is going to be, right in here, and this is where the tie is going to be. How much of this is going to be neck? So if we flip over, we could have the chin right down here, which means we'd curve in this way to the body, and then this would curve in and allow us to curve in the body back here to take that, because men have a slope at the back of their, from the back of their neck down to the back, down to the hip bone back here. Can't speak today. So one of the things we can do, I like to work on these together, because if I carve the face and it doesn't fit in the neck, I still have a choice to cut that off right there and put it in. So I like to work on the head. I know everybody hates heads, or a lot of people do, because it's a lot of work. But in reality, once you know the structure of the head, it's not as hard as it seems. Then it just becomes practice. And so, hard to show, let me see if I can show you that. I drew for the front of the head. When we draw, or when we look at what we're doing in terms of the head, you have to understand what the skull looks like. And so the human skull, if you look at it from top, here's the back of the head. Can't see that, can you? Marker would go a long way to helping, I guess. So the back of the head has a kind of like an arch to it, and then we're looking straight down at the head. Here's the top of the crown, and then it comes together, and there's the front of the face. Knowing that the longest thing is going to be the nose, so right out here would be your nose, and back over here would be your eye sockets. So we've got to look at that shape in terms of getting it out of a square box, because here's what we have. How do we get to there? We have to figure out exactly where things go. And so when we look at numbers, this may all be news to you and it may all be old pipe to you. We look at down where the hair comes in, it's about 1/3 to the hair, down to the, let's see, it's 1/3 from the hair down to the eyebrow, and I drew this a little bit caricatures. It's 1/3 down to the nose, and it's 1/3 down here. So here we've got 1/3, and here we've got 1/3 of the face. And we, as a caricaturist, we can do whatever we want to. We can stretch it out a whole lot and make a whole big difference. We can have a big chin, we can have no chin. We can have a big nose, we can have a small nose. We can have eyes that are wide open, eyes that are shut, whatever. When we then look at the side of the face, you draw where the front of the ear goes. The top of the ear goes to where the eyebrows are. Bottom of the ear goes to where the bottom of the nose is. And so then you can draw an ear. It looks basically like that. It's about in the middle of the neck. So when you look at where, given what most people's neck looks like, turkey neck and scoliosis and a number of other things could cause that to move a little bit forward or backward. But a good rule of thumb is to put the front of that ear right in the middle of the neck. That's 1/3 over to here. It's 1/3 over here to the eyebrow. Now you've got yourself set up. Hair comes in about 2/3 of the way down the head. Hair goes up. For a man, you've got a sideburn if you want it. So we can plan all of that out. We just have to figure it out. And so when we draw it, we've got to draw the back of the head. I'm going to draw right down the middle. And for this purposes, we're going to have him looking straight at us. That's going to be the easiest way to do faces. Have him look straight at us, because I don't know how many muscles you have on the side on your face in terms of making sure they all work together. If you're smiling but your eyes look mad, okay, that gives a look that you may want, but it may not give you the look you're wanting either. Realizing that this is the front, where somewhere about halfway back through here is where we're going to draw the ear. So right here in the middle of the neck, we've got ear coming up here. So right there, I'm going to draw a light guideline across the top. Here's my front. This is where the ear is going to be. I can come over here and I can follow that down, and you look, we got an ear there. So when we go to carve, you have to decide what kind of head this is. I've done a lot of heads in my career, and sometimes you can have great big heads. I do Santas like this, where he's got a great big head. Nice little carving. You don't have to worry about a lot of the details because your ear's here, but then a lot of the face is covered up with a beard, and then you got a great big hat on there. You have to decide what kind of head that's going to be. And so from here, we get to draw on there what we want. Here's my nose, front of the face is right here. So if we look at 1/3 way down, here's about 1/3 down here, here's another 1/3 here. So the nose is going to fit between here and here, eyebrows and hair up here, chin down here. With these guys we've done, there's not much of a chin and there's a real skinny neck. So we can have a lot of fun with that. See where the ear comes down right in the middle of that neck? So again, all of those anatomical features that you want to do, you've got to put those in before you start. Now maybe you've done enough and you can just wing it and start carving on it and not worry about it. That takes a lot of experience and it takes a lot of practice. Not the easiest thing to do if you've never done it, but that's what you have to plan for. So if you figure your head, let me see, can I draw with a pencil and it show up? I doubt it. Yeah, it don't show up much. I figure the head back here, and somewhere around here is the front of the ear. So I'm going to stop right there, right here. Face is going to come in. Sorry. Face is going to come in to a kind of a point, depending on what you're working with. That's a generic head. I got ear here and an ear here. I make my ears over big because I can. It's easy to break them off, and I can recarve them if I make them over big. So in other words, here's the back of the head, rounded, looking straight down from. This is the front of the face up here, and we're looking from the top of the head down. So there's the head drawn, and I've got some ear part over here. Feel free to draw them as big as you want. Bring it back here a little bit because this is going to be the middle of the front of the ear. So the more room I have back here, the more I can have some fun with it. Okay, so that's just the front of the head. Face flattens down a little bit in the front. The widest part of the face is where the cheeks come in. So when we draw this in and carve it, this is the widest part of the carving right here, of the head. So basically your head's a diamond. If you draw a straight line here and a straight line across the middle, this comes out to the biggest, widest part and back into the narrowest part. Same way here, you got a diamond, out and in. Nose is a triangle. Both frontwards, you look at it, there's a triangle right there, poop, poop, poop. And there's another triangle right here on the side, 1, 2, 3. Take that into consideration. There's the ear, there's the hair, there's the face, and you notice there's really little chin on this guy. It's a caricature, so we get to stretch the anatomy a little bit like we want to. So we've got that kind of drawn on this guy. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start getting hogging out the big stuff. This face comes to right here, which means if we come down, that face is right in here. So I got to give a little bit more room for the nose. So I'm going to move this so that I have some stuff out here, and I'm going to bring the nose out even more. Sorry, get in the line and see it. I'm going to bring that nose out even more, so that way I can get the right dimensions for the head. I'll leave that there for a couple of minutes so you can take a screenshot or picture of it or whatever you need to do. And then I'm going to put on my safety gear. Always wear your safety gear. It's very frustrating to get hurt, and it's almost as frustrating to see it when people poke it up there. They say, well, look what I did. And I'm going, you know, I really did not. I need to see blood today. I could have gone the rest of the day without seeing blood. But anyway, I try to wear my safety gear just about all the time. There's times when I want to pick it up and I'm doing something real intricate, and I don't usually worry about it too much. But I want to make sure I have my hands protected as much as I can. I don't know if you've seen my hand, but I lost a couple of fingers years ago in a table saw accident, and I don't want to recreate that at all. I don't even like talking about it. I hate it, but you know, it's a big question that people want to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking off just this excess space out here, and it's all just big wood that needs to be hogged out. I don't care about my drawing. I got my drawing on there now, so I got it in my mind where I'm going. I'm just going to come out here. I got a big OCC knife. I love these things. I love the handle. It fits well. Unfortunately, OCC is not in existence anymore. They've been bought out by KT or KC. Can't remember the name of the company, but they're doing a pretty good job from what I hear. I haven't needed to order any more tools. I might buy a couple of Helvies when I go to Colorado in September, but we'll see. We'll see. No sense in buying tools unless you absolutely need them, unless you're a tool collector. And I don't consider myself a tool collector, but I do like good tools. People ask me when I'm carving, why do I have 8 knives? Well, you know, the wisdom is that for every 15 to 30 minutes of carving with a tool, you should hone it and get it back to sharpness. So that means I can go all day, and all I got to do is just drop the knife back in the bag, and I'll sharpen it when I get a chance. Otherwise, I got to stop every 15 minutes to sharpen, and I don't really like that much. Not that I don't mind sharpening, there's something kind of Bob Ross Zen-like about sharpening tools. When you take a tool that's not working well and you fix it and you make it better, that's a good feeling. But it's not what I want to spend my day doing. I budget some time during every week or month to sharpen my tools, hone them rather, and I don't like doing it a lot, which means because it means my tools are not sharp, and I don't really want to deal with dull tools. I like carving. I don't like carving with dull tools. So I'm gonna just drop that back in the bag. It's got its own spot. I'll put it back in there. Sometimes I put them off to the side and sharpen all of them at one time. So you see the shape we're getting, we're rounding it around. I haven't got this corner much yet, but that's where we're headed. We're headed towards getting where we need to go and getting that shape down. That was a pretty good size head. I mean, that's a lot of head to fool with compared to the body, because it comes all the way out here. The 2-inch block is right there, and the 2-inch block is right there. So we shaped in to where we want the front of the neck to be. We'd take some more off, and then we'd shape this to where we want the collar to hold in the back. So this is just you know, all these chips coming off, because we got to get it to a certain point where we can start putting in the details. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they'll take a flat carving and start putting a lot of details on it, or they'll take a carving that's half done and they're ready to paint it, when in reality you're not there yet. So take a little patience. There's very few of us that are under a deadline for carving, unless you're a professional carver, or you got a birthday coming up and that person wanted that carving for the birthday. Take your time. Make sure you get the setup right, because whenever you're doing anything, there's always a setup. I was in the military, and when I got out of the military, I went to bricklaying school through the Association of Builders and Contractors in Maryland. And one of the things I learned was you may get out of your truck with your tools in your hand and you're ready to lay brick or block or whatever. The reality is the mud people aren't ready for you. The hod carriers aren't ready for you. The boss hasn't come around giving you your marching orders for the day. So you got to take your time and be ready and be prepared, because that way when you finally get the trowel in your hand and put a little mud on that thing, you can just go whip, whip, whip and right down the row, and you can get to work a lot quicker than you would have if you hadn't stopped to take the time to set it all up. Take your time. Make sure you know what you're going to do. Make sure your tools are in good shape. Make sure you got your safety equipment. Make sure you're ready to go. So I've got the rough shape. I haven't taken it all off because I want to leave myself some extra room. I always leave a little bit of room for a fudge factor. That fudge factor is things I need to take care of when I'm going along. This wood is nice and soft. It carves, but one side seems a little drier than the other, so I got to take that into consideration. All right. On the front, I drew some lines. This would be the eyebrow, and this would be the bottom of the nose, and down here is the chin and the hair up here. Doesn't leave you a whole lot, because I'm going to make this guy nearly bald. This guy's nearly bald. I want to make this and show you how to do that. And then when we do the other head, we might be able to get a little bit more detail out of that and put some hair in that one. We'll figure that one out on another day. So I'm drawing over here. So my ear, if I draw that line over here, measure it with my finger, I can draw straight over. Right there is the eyebrow. Draw this one straight over. Right there is the bottom of the nose. Now, you can fudge this all you want. You can change whatever you need. But if I look at this as the front of the face, the nose is going to be, or the ear is going to be about right here. That's going to be the ear. I would cut that out as a square, as a block. It'll be easier to maintain. If you did it as a triangle here, looking at the other side, it's hard to do it as a triangle. If you do it as a block, you can easily come over here and get that block the same size, and it's easier to do that. And then the only question is it the same? Is it back enough? So this one's back to here. right here. This one is back to here, so I kind of got that at the same way too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a V tool or a soft V. I don't know if you guys ever use a soft V. I'm getting to where I use a soft V a lot because I can do a lot of things with it. A soft V is a V that doesn't have a sharp point. So when you have a sharp point like this one on your V, there's a difference in the kind of cut you get on this one as opposed to this one. This one makes a sharp cut when you make it, and it's kind of there. This one makes a softer cut. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like. So we're going to take this ear, and the top of it, I'm going to do it with a soft V. I don't know if you can see that cut very well, but that's not very sharp and hard. And if I do the bottom one, that's a sharper cut. Which means if I have to change this, I'd like to change this one. I don't want to change this one because it's in deeper and it's a sharper cut. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that just so I know where they're at. Make a couple more of them to make sure it's in there. And when I said this piece of wood was a little drier, you can see when I cut, if my tools are not sharp, all they do is lay those over. All right, so I'm going to leave those alone and go do the other one. In the same spot, yes I am. Hot diggity. This side's cutting a little bit better than that other side for some reason. I don't know, maybe I hate to say it dried differently, but it's one piece of wood 6 inches away from each other. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is now that's going to determine how wide the head is. That ear is the outside edge of that head, which means all of this stuff has got to come in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my knife, and at the bottom, I'm going to make a stop cut right there, pretty deep with my knife, and I'm just going to carve up to the bottom of that head, bottom of that ear. I'm trying to remove this excess wood here. I meant to keep an eye on the chat if anybody says anything or if anybody showed up and I didn't let them in. Participants, 3 of us, chat. Nothing in the chat. Feel free to put something in the chat if I'm going too fast and you don't want to wait on me to do that. Okay. Let's see. How do I get that back out of there? Pop out. Back. Still learning how to use all these features. I swear, sometimes I think I got it made and other times I don't know what I'm doing. Technology is not my friend. Having said that, I've had to use a lot of it for a long time. So I'm making this face just as thin as I want. At this point, I'm not really caring where it is. I'm just trying to make it go in so that I can take the rest of this wood off that I need. At some point, if you don't like it, you can switch to a fishtail gouge, and I've got a couple of fishtail gouges that I use a lot. I like these things because I seem to have a little bit of control over them. If you're a carver that does a lot of carving at one time, you know, you sit down and do 8 hours of carving, 6 hours of carving, whatever, you'll find out that unless you're really experienced and really practiced at it, your forearm gets a little tired on you. And that's because your forearm is gripping this handle, and it's hard, and sometimes they got slick finishes on them. And so you've got it gripping, and then you're changing grips, and you're doing whatever. This tucks into the 3 fingers on your hand, and then you can just move your shoulder. And your shoulder is a lot bigger muscle than the forearm, and so it doesn't require as much grip, and it doesn't require as much strength to hold on to it, because your shoulder's moving it and doing what it needs to do, while your fingers are just wrapped around it and kind of guiding it. So try that if you don't have a fishtail gouge. They come in a bunch of different sizes. I'm going to pause a minute to get all these chips out of my way. They're kind of being a pain in the butt, and they don't listen, so I'm going to get them out of the way. My garbage can over here. Empty them in there. I don't know what most people do with all these chips that they take off of this stuff. I just throw them in the garbage or put them in the fire pit. I don't imagine you can use them for something like hamster bedding or whatever, but some days I create a lot of chips that I'm just going, boy, that's a, I don't know if that's a monetary value to them chips, but I'd be glad to sell them to somebody that needed them. All right, I'm starting to do that bottom of the face. Sorry, I'm off camera. Starting to do the bottom of that face. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Stop cut. I've already measured where these guide holes are that I made, and so I know they should be fairly even. So just come in here to my fishtail gouge, and I'm just removing a lot of wood. I use that thing a lot because it can really take off some wood at times, and when you're looking at it from a hand holding point, you can do both sides of the carving the exact same way, whereas with a knife you may have to flip it over and do it upside down or backwards. So this kind of makes it easy to just get in here. I'll do it this way on this side, and then I flip over to this side, and I'm doing it the exact same way. I'm not having to adjust my hand. I'm doing it all in one particular fashion. I'm carving that same way, and it makes it a lot easier rather than switching positions on your knife. Any questions so far? Questions or comments or?
Everything looks good.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here. Nice to know that I set all this up and I got people to show up, so I'm glad to have y'all here.
What size fishtail do you like, Eric?
I use a couple different ones, and it just depends on what I'm doing. I had the same question yesterday about a V-tool. I was at our senior center, and somebody's trying to carve eyes, and they're saying, "Well, what size of V-tool do you use for eyes?" Well, how much time do you have? Because I use a lot of them. I have about 3 or 4 of them. I have that one. That's the Drake. It's one of the oldest tools I've got, and it's really just a quality tool. When Gil Drake was carving and making tools, he since passed away. He made some superior tools, and I've owned some of them over the year. Here's a Stubai one. Stubai sold by Chris Willick out of Whittling Warehouse, Whittling Shack. They're out of Minnesota. I have another one that's done by Flex Cut. This one is really nice because it's thin and it's short, and I can really get where I need to go. This one is heavy. It's thicker. You can see the difference in the thickness. If I can hang on to it without dropping it. Difference in the thickness of the two tools. This one will take off a lot of wood, and those Stubais seem to stay sharp a lot longer. This one's a flex cut, and the advantage of a flex cut, if you've ever used a flex cut, is they have a flexible shaft. And so when you're carving in, if you get stuck, you can turn and carve out rather than having to back out and come back. Now, you can get them in several different sizes as well. I will use a small one. This is a file, PFEIL. That's a small one. It's almost as flat as, it's about as flat as the other ones. But this one is good for getting in there. So for instance, if I'm doing this carving in here in this guy's neck, and I want to get in there, it's hard to get in there with this big tool. I can get in there with this smaller one. So the file is a number 7, it says, but I don't think that's a 7. That looks about a number 5, but that just depends on how you define the suite. This is a number 7 file. This is the flex cut gouge. Let me measure the size of it here. That flex cut has, if you go by inches, it looks about 7/8, 3/4 maybe. If you go by millimeter, it's about a 25 roughly. This one here is the same way. It's about a 1.5 inches. It's about or not 1.5 inches. It's about a millimeter. It's about 1.5 centimeters. So about 1 to 10. About 15 millimeters, if you can translate that. You as a Canadian, you're probably better at translating those from standard to metric than I am. As an inch, it's about about 1/2 inch, and the Stubai is about 3/4 or 2 centimeters, sorry. 2 centimeters. And most of these are relatively flat. A flat chisel is considered a 1, and then everything that has a curve to it is a 2, 3, all the way up to 11. This one says 3 on it from the Stubai. This one says 7 on the file. This one has no numbers on the drakes. They don't put numbers on there, but it's about a 3, and then this one's about a 3 as well. I hope that answered your question, Carol.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much.
You betcha. Thanks for asking. All right. There we go. I use these little thumb guards made from rubber gloves. I cut the fingers off and wrap them with vet wrap, so it gives me 2 layers of protection, and I can take it on an awful lot of times without it completely crushing. I had one there that I just threw it away from across the room because it kept crushing on me, and the inner folds in, and I didn't like that. So I decided to huck it over there and get rid of it. So I'm working on the head. Just trying to get that head down where we need to go, and we've roughly done the bottom. We got them about even on both sides. Looks like I've got my center line just a little bit off, or maybe the center line's right, but the carving's off. I haven't carved as much on this side as I've done on this side. So now I'm going to do this on this side. Here's what I got to plan. I've got to plan around this ear, and I've got to plan around the hair. So I said I was going to make him kind of bald. I don't know that I've got one sitting up here that is. Where are they? Anyway, I got a box of carved ones, and I got a box of uncarved ones, and I can see them. Been a snake, it bit me. Right here. These fellas all have hair, I think. Yeah, I didn't make any of these kind of bald except for, well, none of them, I guess I did. Yeah, this one's the only one that's slightly bald. He's got very little hair, and then across the top, he's got wrinkles across the top. All right, anyway, so that's where we're at. We're going to play around with him. We just now got to plan, where is that going to go? Where do I put his hair, and how far up do I put his ears? So I know I want his ears sticking out, because in the back of my mind, the picture I have for this guy is Ichabod Crane. You know that story from the Headless Horseman. Real goofy looking, tall, lanky, whatever descriptors you want in there to make him just kind of goofy looking. So I'm making room to put my tools out here where they're not all over the side. I made myself a little holder just out of a plastic kitchen organizer, and drilled or sanded out some slots in there for them to sit in there. This is a European way of doing things, where apprentices will spend the first year just being a wood sharpener, and then when they finally get to doing their tools, they have to have something like this built, and they have to use it. And every time, I was told, every time they don't, they put their stuff over here on the side, the instructor smacks them in the back of the head or smacks their hand. So it might be a good way. I always wanted to do that at school, where kids doing something wrong, smack them in the back of the head, tap him right there just to wake him up. But it's America, we can't do that. So no more nuns smacking you with a ruler across the knuckles. So I'll try not to do that to any of my carving students. All right, anyway, I know I'm going to take some of this off. I may round that head. I've got a big ear, and if you can see from here, I've got some big ears sticking out, which means I can always make them smaller depending on what I do to the head. So I'm going to do the same thing here, come back in here, and I want to make some cuts. And these cuts aren't real deep, so I don't worry about them being too deep that I can't negotiate around them. I'm just going to make them. And then I'm going to come down with that fishtail gouge again, and I'm just going to carve those out. I'm just thinning down the head so that I can make his head look proportional. Earlier today, I thought I'd do this outside, and I set up my chair, my table, and nothing was working. The wind was blowing pretty bad, and my lights kept falling over. I finally decided I'm gonna do it inside today. So maybe someday in the future we'll be outside on the back patio. And I don't have a great big yard, which means I don't have a lot to mow. I don't have any to mow in the backyard, so we just got hardscaped with a lot of plants. The neighbor across the back fence has some huge pine trees, and the squirrels drop pine needles all over the place, so I got to clean them up all the time. Pine needles and pine cones. But there's a lot of birds in this neighborhood, so you hear them. And when I was out there, they were making a lot of noise. I don't know if they were telling me I didn't belong out there, or there was a predator in the area. We live just a few miles from a bird sanctuary called Birds of Prey Nature Center, and they have classes and they have tours. But in this area we have a lot of falcons, hawks, and owls, things like that, so they're always looking for an easy meal. And some of the birds flying around here, or mice or squirrels or whatever, they haul them off. And I hate to see the little chirpy birds, the ones that have beautiful voices and beautiful songs, but that's just nature. And that's what happens in nature. You know, for something to live, something else has got to die. So it's funny, my neighbor across the street, she hates those falcons and those hawks, and I think they're very majestic birds, and I like watching them. They'll come and land on the back fence, and I'll sit here and watch them. I've never seen them catch one of the quails. We got a lot of quail. My wife loves those quails, and then in spring when the little babies come out, they're little puffballs with legs. They're just cute, and they're so fast. They can dart across my yard in a flat second. And I'm wondering, how does a little baby that small and that young do that? But, well, they do it. Fun to watch them. But they're skittish as all get out. Sometimes you can put food right in front of your foot, and the little birds will swoop in, get it, take off. Try doing that with a quail. It doesn't happen very much. So, all right. So you can see that I'm trimming down above the ears, and I'm going to have a lot of room because I want to go back in some more. That's a big head for such a body, and so we can have that size. We just have to shape it to make it look smaller. So this is the same size head, but you see how much we've taken off of it. Started out as the same size head, but we trimmed a lot of it down, and that's the way all these other ones that I pulled out of here that are carved, they're the same way. So right now what I'm trying to do is getting the round shape this way and the round shape this way. That determines where this is going to go. And so I'm gonna start on the back. I'm going to take this fishtail gouge, and I'm going to get that back of the neck that I shaped that I said. Head goes around like this. Sorry, get something to point with. Head goes around like this. Here's the top of the head. Comes around like this. Does like this, goes, comes back out here. Can't hang on to nothing. Goes back out here and then comes in right here. So essentially, piece of paper as usual. Essentially the shape of that head, top of the head here, comes back around here, it goes out and then comes back in and gives you that. That's where the spinal cord comes in. So right in here, your spinal cord is right at the back of your neck. Right here is where the middle of the neck is. Your trachea is forward to that, and then you got all the bones over here. So we want to start doing this. I got to bring this part in, at least part way into the back of the head. So what I'm going to do, move that out of the way. I'm just going to take the fishtail gouge. And not only is it going to go in this way here, it's also going to go in here this way here. So that's going to come down to form that area where the jaw is. So I'm just going to take the fishtail gouge. Actually, I think it might be better if I grabbed a shorter, stiffer knife. This one's a Pinewood Forge. If you like them, it's a really nice handle, and the blade is very pointed and very heavy. It doesn't flex at all. which means you can make a really stiff cut out of there. All I'm doing is carving down to that neck. And at this point is where you get to decide whether you have enough wood back here to make him, give him a turkey neck or not. Doesn't matter. It's your choice. I always tell people, when you do a carving, even if you've done 1 or 50 of them, they all speak to you. You're doing it for a particular reason, and whatever that reason is in your head. Take the time to get to know what that carving is. I know I'm putting human values and tendencies on a inanimate object, anthropomorphizing it or whatever I'm saying. But it's talking to you. Is this, for instance, this guy, it's his first date, right? Is he going out with somebody he knows, or does he not know that person? Are they total strangers, or have they been friends for a long time? What part of what, there's an awkwardness to it. Carve that. Carve that awkwardness in this guy. Bring him out. Let him tell you the story, and he will talk to you, and you'll hear his life story, or you'll make it up. One of the two. More than likely, you'll make it up, because if the wood's talking to you, you might want to call in a poltergeist, exorcist or something. But anyway, I'm going to round this part at the back of the head, and I'm going to do a little bit of rounding on the top, on the bottom of the head. Sorry, I'm going to do a little bit of rounding across the top. I'm just going to carve around those outlines that we had. So now the head's starting to lean forward, and we'll come to the back. About 1/4 of the way down on the back of the head, I want to carve that up to it. Little at a time, because you don't want a big old hunk out of there and look like he's come in with an injury that he didn't really want. But this back part right here is kind of curved. It isn't straight in. It won't go straight down like that. It'll curve just like I'm doing here. So you've got where the outside part of the skull starts to curve down to the spinal cord. Look at all the anatomy you're going to learn today. Alrighty then. I'm doing that from the ear, this ear, all the way over to the other side of that ear. So I want to bring that in because it's going to give me the shape that I'm looking for that head. Starting to look like a head. Sorta. Kinda. Okay, see that shape of that back of that head? From this point we could start working on that, but that's still sticking out quite a bit. So I'm going to take out a little bit more because it looks like an egghead. And I've got to make this round over here to the ear, and it's got to be enough wood taken off here to make that ear stick up. So we'll make it a little bit here. Still just trimming it down a little at a time. I've got a lot of chips here, but I'm not really taking off big hunks of wood. I'm just whittling it down there so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay. All right. Looking at where the neck is, right here. It goes right up to the front of the ear. So now what I want to do, leaving myself some fudge factor, I want to take off the front part of the ear. That's going to flatten the face here. I may end up taking more off here. Right now I'm going to work on that part right there. So I'm going to make this cut. I'm going to take this much of that wood off. That part that I colored. So the easiest way to do that, fishtail gouge, straight in. You can do it a lot of different ways. I like that because it gives me a straight cut with a straight blade, or as straight as I need it. Okay, come to the face and cut over to the front of the ear. If you need to make another stop cut, feel free to do that. make that stop cut with that fishtail gouge. You can see it right in there. And then I'll come out here and now I got that ear poking out there. I want to do the same thing with the other side. I want to take that line and I want to add a little bit, maybe 3-4 millimeters. Stab that straight in. Pull out. And there we go. What I'm trying to do is remove those cut marks in the front so that it's a smooth transition to the ear. Take a little bit more off of here. Okay. It's looking that way. Now what I want to do is bring the below the chin, I want to bring the below the ear to the chin, I want to bring that down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start not quite at the ear, but I'm going to start right out here and just go in at an angle. If you know more of your anatomy, the bottom jaw starts right here at the front of the ear, and then it comes down at an angle. For most people, it's about 45 to 60 degrees, and then there's the bottom of the chin. So we're making room for us to put that in there, right here at the top of the shoulder, and bringing that chin, side of the chin, the mandibles, what those jaws are called, bringing that into the head. Do it on the other side as well. Somewhere about a little bit away from the ear. Flip it over. Do it with the fishtail gouge. I'll get a better angle. Didn't take off as much on this side as I did on the other, so I'll come over here and remove a little bit more. Okay, I've rounded this side, round that side a little bit more too. A little bit more. Close enough. We'll finish it up a little bit later. So now I've kind of got the head going in the right direction. I don't usually do the ears just yet because what I want to do is I want to take this bulk off back here. We've got a lot on the back of the head, so starting about halfway down, I'm just starting to take off some of that bulk. I'm going from ear to ear, not carving into the ear. I'm just trying to flatten that out a little bit more in the back so I don't have a bad bulge to the head. And then now that gives me room to see where I need to do at the back. I'm going to do that again. Come in at about a 45-degree angle to the neck. 45-degree angle. 45-degree angle. Just trying to bring that head down to the neck. Right there. And you can see on this guy, we haven't given him a whole lot of neck. We can drop all of this down, but we haven't given him much of a neck. We don't need to, but later on we can still do that before we get too carried away. Now back of the head, I want to round that part again. See how we're getting that head curve? I don't like these hard lines, so I'm going to take a little bit more because you need a gradual transition between what sticks out and what lays flat. So you need it to come gradually, not just come up and straight over. So we're still working on that head. The back of the head's still big. That gives us plenty of room to take off later. I go in here every time I pass it by, it seems like I nibble a little bit more off. Didn't double check to make sure we are recording. I'm pretty sure we are. Yep, we still are. Okay. Leaving room for the sideburn? I sure am. This face is really wide. There's a lot of wood that's got to come off. So I'm going to leave room. Let me draw that. Let me draw that in there. I'm going to pull out a marker and I'll show you what we're going to do. If I can find my marker, what to do. There it is, right there. Okay. So we've got an ear. We'll start to make a triangle out of that thing by taking off this corner right here. Sorry. So we'll take off that corner right there. Hair is going to be right around here, about halfway up the head. We're going to bring the hairline down here. We're going to leave some room back there if we wanted to make a neck. Come out here. We got this triangle right here. At halfway up, we're going to make the hair down there. So that we got hair down there. This is where the hair is going to be. This guy's going to be, I've decided he's going to be partially bald. So we're going to put him about right here with a sideburn. Right here. Sorry, you're not seeing that, are you? Right here going up. And it goes back a little bit. And then it's sideburn, not sideburn. The hairline back here. I'm blessed with a full head of hair. I lost a little bit when I was in the military, but most of my hair is still on my head. There's a strange thing I've noticed in my family. The firstborn males seem to all go bald. I have no idea why. So and it's even more pronounced if the firstborn is a male, not just the first male born in the family, because you could have two girls and then a boy. It's when the male is born first. So my brother is balder than a baby's butt, and most of my male cousins are that way. Don't know why. I've asked the scientists about that. Their answer is, I said, well, how does that happen? They go, we don't know. Could it be this? So I don't know if there's just there's not enough money in male pattern baldness for them to do a study on that, but my family would be the perfect one to start studying. All right, so I've got that sideburn kind of in. This one, if you look at this ears, this one here is lower than this one. See, this one comes all the way over. Got that line going all the way over, and it's lower than if we go straight over to this one. So I got to take a little bit more off of this, because while we're not a slave to symmetry, we got to have some kind of symmetry there too. You can't have one ear a lot higher than the other, or eyes, unless they've been through, some kind of trauma. And I imagine people can be born that way. I just haven't seen many people with ears that are two different planes. So not saying it couldn't happen, not saying it would be bad, just I have not seen that. So I'm doing what I can to keep it somewhat symmetrical. All I'm doing is trimming off that. For some reason it's really hard wood right here. Okay, so now the ears are about the same size, roughly. We can shape them up as we go. All right, 2 o'clock. We've been carving for an hour. Isn't that fun? Not so much worried about the hair right now, but I am going to worry about that hairline in the back of the head. So I'm going to grab a V-tool, relatively mid-size. This is one of the stew buds I picked up. This is a number 39. I don't know what that number means, but I'll go on to whittling. I want to say Whittling Work Shack, and I don't think that's right. Whittling Wood Shack, maybe. Anyway, they sell these tools, and they've got a infographic that'll tell you what the size of the tool is, like all the V tools that are 45 degrees, all these numbers, this size, all the V tools at 60 degrees are these sizes and these angles. So that'll be able to tell you. What I'm doing is I'm cutting the back of the ear so that I can shape the ear. The ear is basically a triangle sitting on your head, but it looks more like a question mark. So I've shaped around it. I'm going to do the same thing here. And I usually do the biggest one first, because then I can try to make the smallest one match. Not always the easiest thing to do. So I've cut the back. I'm going to put on my glove because I would hate to embarrass myself and cut myself here on live TV. All right, where's my son? All right. So what I'm going to do is I just want to take that wood off the back where I cut it. So I'm giving more definition to the ear, giving more shape to it. There's more that's got to come off of it because ears aren't shaped like that. So all I'm doing is taking off this ridge of wood that I left off the back of the ear. And in fact, what I'm going to do, so we can see it, I'm going to just shave off the lines that I have on these ears, because they can get hard to see. I do it with a black marker on classes so that people could see it. I did a class last year at the Northwest Carving Academy. Pat Moore, who's a carver for Moore Rough Outs. She came over to my carver and she goes, "What's all this black stuff all over it?" And I said, "Well, that way I can see what I'm doing." "Yeah, it just gets in the way." I guess it kind of does. Anyway, shape that up around the back of that ear. Take that wood off. So you're shaping that head around to where the head comes a little bit flat. It's round back here. When it comes out here, it kind of flattens out in this first little bit right here. Flattens out there. So I can do that back to the back of the ear, and it takes more of that bulk off that I didn't want in the back of the head. So you can see this head is shaping up to look like a real head's supposed to. We'll give it more when we go to do the hair. We'll curl it in more here and thin that out because I don't want the neck to look as thick as his head. So anyway, I'm just taking some of this wood off the back of the ear. Okay. So now when we look at the front of that face, it's really, there's nothing there. So now's the time we start doing that. We've got the markers and the dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my soft V. I like this thing. In fact, I've got a bigger one that was made by OCC. I've got an even bigger one that's the same thing. It's a soft V. They don't have real sharp edges. So right here at the bottom of this, it's not a true V, it's a rounded V. You could call it a gouge, I guess you could, but I like the round V because that's what seems to be the common name, and this one does the same thing too. So what I'm going to do, let me take a little bit of this sharp edge off. I just want to take a little bit because when I see that sharp edge, I get a little bit wonky feeling about it, thinking I'm doing something wrong because heads aren't square. Anyway, taking a little bit of that wood off around the top around here so that I can see where I'm going with the head, right around in here. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure it looks like this is a little bit off when I compare it to this here. When I look straight down at it, no, I'm about right. I'm right enough anyway. Okay, going to take that soft V and I'm going to carve the eyebrow. This is the top of the eye socket and the bottom of the forehead. So I don't want to take it real deep because I may not want it real deep this time. I'm going to need it deep enough. But I started with the forehead right there. Okay. And so it looks like my numbers are about right. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, although this bottom third looks a little bit bigger than a third. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this bottom of the nose down just a skosh. I want to go down about 2 more millimeters, about 1/8 of an inch. I can make it longer if I wanted to, but I can't make it any shorter. Once I make it that short, can't make it any shorter. Looks like he's got a Hitler mustache or something there. Anyway, okay, so I got that cut in. I'm going to undercut because I'm going to give this, he's going to be bald, but he's going to be clean shaven. So I don't want to put a lot of hair. I showed a carving yesterday at our senior center, and one of the guys who's known me for a while, he says, boy, that's a really good looking face, but you used to do a lot of beards and mustaches. And I said, yeah, when I first started carving, I did a lot of beards and mustaches because I didn't like doing mouths. Mouths were hard to do. And now it's just the opposite for me. I do a lot fewer beards and mustaches, unless it calls for it. You know, gnomes would call for it, but not necessarily every cowboy has a beard. Okay, so if you can look, I kind of got the face started to go in the right direction. So there's his nose. That black line throws you off, doesn't it? Throws me off. A friend of mine gave me an electric eraser. Works great on pencils. It doesn't work great on this marker that I tend to use. So yeah, she sent that to me, and it's a electric pencil sharpener or pencil eraser. Got little erasers inside the tip of that you can swap out. And I've worn this one completely down, that one down. But anyway, it's a neat little tool. She sent it to me, and I didn't even know these things existed. I'm like, wow, learn something new every day. All right, see how far that forehead's sticking out? So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna move most of that head and taking out a big old slice here, because we haven't straightened out the head. I talked earlier about putting details on before we started. We haven't straightened out the head. We still got a big back head, so to keep from getting weird feelings back here, I'm gonna start back here, and I'm gonna do that again with the fishtail gaps. I'm gonna go in, and I'm going to curve up. This is the back of the neck. I'm carving from the hairline down to the collar. See that shape right there that we were looking for? Right there. We're trying to slim down the neck. So I'm going to do it up here at the forward of the face. Around the jaw, come back here on the back, another little bit there. And then I'm going to take off all those little chips that I left hanging there because I don't need them anymore. Take them off. So you can see right there where it goes into the neck, we're going to trim down the back as well. So now I'm going to try to match that line a little bit, make it same angle, just above that line that we cut in. That head's looking a little bit better, but I still want to curve that in some. So I'm going to come above that cut we just made with my fishtail. I'm just using this big flex one. Yeah, that is looking a whole lot better now that I'm following the thing I see in my head and not what I see at the end of my knife. Okay, trim that bulge off right there. Okay. Now remember, the face is a triangle, so we should be coming out like this. Should be a triangle. So we've got a lot of bulk here and a lot of bulk there. We'll just pull this up right forward to that. I'm not cutting off the eyebrows or the sideburns. Just trying to get these flat parts to the face to match up. If I don't watch myself, he's going to be turned just a little bit to this way, so I got to be careful of that. Got to make sure I'm taking it off. And I'm going all the way back to the ear on this one side to flatten that out, because this side's flatter than this one. So I want to flatten this one out a little bit more. Okay, a little bit more. And a little bit over here. I think I'm getting there. Don't know yet, but I think I'm getting there. Narrow down that jaw. I'm going to go from the bottom of the ear. All I'm doing is bringing that down. Because I like that better than I like that. I like it over here more than I like it over here. So we'll do the same thing. Bottom of that ear. Come down. Looks a little better. A little more trimming. A little more off the top there. Okay. All right. Let's look at those ears. Let's trim those ears down. We want to be. When I look at ears, the ears look like this. They have a front slope down. They have a back slope down, and then they come around like this. And then you got the wind flap in here, and you got some things in there. So I'm going to take off this ear, same thing this here, and this here. Same thing over here. I've got the corner, I got the back, and you got to make sure you're doing these both the same size, because one is going to look goofy if it's a lot bigger or smaller than the other one. Okay. I'm going to do this left one first because I think it's a little wonkier than the first one, than the other side. Because what I can do, if I make this one size, it's easier to match it to the other one. So right there, I'm going to take off that corner. I'm going to take off the back corner here. And I'm going to cut this one in with a knife, follow it around, curl it. So I should have a curl right there. See that curl right there? So it goes to the bottom. The bottom of the ear is narrower than the rest of it. So I got to take that off. You'll see it in just a minute because I'm not done with this yet. Okay. Once I do that, then what I want to do is I want to make it a 45-degree angle from the front to the back. So I'm going to lay that in there, do this with 2 or 3 cuts if you need to, because you want to get it right. You don't want to have to glue an ear on. So I'm going about a 45-degree angle. Just trying to get that thing carved. See the lip on the front? I want to take that off. I couldn't get it off coming down. I'm going to do it going up. Okay. I want to take a gouge, and a fairly large size gouge, not real big, but that's not the one I wanted. This one is. This is another stew by. This is number 11. So it's a number 11. Looks like it's about 3/8 of an inch, maybe. I'm guessing. Anyway, I look, and if I want it to be at least half the size of the ear. If it's not, I want to get a bigger one. So I'm going to get a bigger one. I got a bigger one out here. Another stew by. This is I don't know what this is. It's number 11 as well. It's just different size. Okay, that looks about half the size of the ear. I'm going to go from pencil. I'll make a cut. I'll make a mark. I want to go about right here. I want to take that out right there. So can I do that with that? Yeah, that'll match up. And I'm at about a 45-degree angle. Go in. Don't crash into the side of the face if you can help it. Okay, so there's that ear. Now trimming is where you're going to run into your difficulties. I want to undercut the ear. This is basically a flap. The ear is a flap that flaps back and forth. And so what we want to do is undercut the back of it so that it looks like it's a flap. So I'm going to come in here and follow that profile and go fairly Not real deep, not shallow either. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to undercut that. Because what I want to do is show that that ear goes back up under there. Take off the one at the top, take off the one across the top, and we have an ear sticking out that we can undercut again and again until we run out of space. Okay, now this really shouldn't be bulged out and then come back in. It should be bulged out, come in, bulge out, come in. So what I'm going to do, take that line off so I can see what I'm doing. There should be a bulge cut out right there. So right here, hard to see on this little face, right about right here, I want to take part of that ear off. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Take this, which you just cut the ear with, and you went this way with it, now you're going to go this way. You just want to take a little bit off. See that shape I gave it right there? That little cutout right there is what I want. And then I'm going to trim that up. And I'm going to trim the ear, because the ear is one level out here and it's not really a level. It goes out at the top, in the middle, it comes back out at the top where the lobe is. So I'm going to come down about halfway and then come back up and cut that out. Because I want a little bit of dimension on that ear, if you can see it right there, where that little bit of dimension's cut out. Then I'm going to shape the lobe by taking off the front triangle on the lobe, where the face is. And then come back here at the last part, the top upper corner. We'll have a few stray marks here that we got to take care of, but that's not a big deal. By now you're a good enough carver to do that. Trim that skin up around the ear, and know that somewhere about right here halfway we're going to run the hair down anyway, so don't try to make it perfect. You're going to take care of that when you add hair. Okay? What I like to do is I like to cut out this corner right here, very tip, right there. And I want to take that out because that's where your glasses would sit. If you're a eyeglass wearer, the temple of the glass comes right over the top of that ear. I like to leave a little indentation there. That way, if I want to put glasses in there, I can do that. I'm going to take a little bit more off of this reverse cut that I did at the back of the ear, because it looks too bulky for me. And so underneath, I'm going to cut out a little bit more around that ear. You can make these ears, the earlobes, as thick, fat, flabby, straight as you want. Just make them look like real ears. I'm going to grab a real small drake. It's a small gouge. I use this for the tragus, or the wind flap. So I'm going to go about halfway up the ear, the inside, and I'm going to make that cut straight in with that stubby, or that wood drake. So it leaves me that wind flap there, and then I want to grab a tool, a knife, and I want to make a cut down to the middle of that tragus, on that back side of it. Stop, do it on the bottom. Come up. Those two cuts should meet, mine didn't. And it gives you the one little bit of ear flap you got. Outline at the top with that same tool. And that's about all I do on ears. I'm not going to put a whole lot more on them. I may come to the front of it and relieve it a little bit, but not always. It just depends on the ear. This is a this is a funny looking ear on a funny looking guy. And I'm okay with that. Now we just do the whole same thing on the other side. You have all those steps in your head? You ready to go? Here we go. I'll repeat them as I go. Cut off the back. You got an ear shape that looks like a question mark. Cut off the back corner. Cut off the front corner. 45-degree angle. Okay. Shape it. Come on. And then I want to cut really well. got a shape to my ear. I'm going to take off this front corner to give me the shape that I want up there. Remember, that's where the temple of your glasses go. So you could take a little bit more off and make it an indentation so that it looks like it's that ear coming off. Trim off the back. I'm going to undercut it. I probably used way too many steps on the other one, so follow this one. That one I was trying to bore you to death with the explanation. How'd I do? Alright. So undercut this flap because you want to make sure that ear looks like it's not just plastered on there. It's free to flap in the wind. Or when the nun comes around with the ruler, she may miss your hand and hit your ear. That's okay too. Okay. I want to make sure that when I look at these two ears, they're about the same size. They look about the same size. They are. I want to come down here and cut out that middle part that I said, up, down, and then up, because you want to give it some dimension. I want to trim off the bottom lobe. Take off that corner right there of the lobe. I want to trim that down a little bit more. Come on. Having a hard time getting those two cuts to match, but I got it. It's always easier to explain to do it than it is to explain it. Tragus and the cut. So down to the tragus from the top, one cut down to the middle of that ear, one cut up to the middle of that ear, and that should come off. And make one line right here at the top. You can put more flaps in there if you want to. I don't really like to spend a lot of time on ears. I've never heard anybody walk away and say, I'm not buying that carving because of the ears. So I haven't had that problem. So I see a problem with the top. This guy's really flat up here and it comes to that, but it's still bulging out back here. So again, back to the back of the ear, or back of the head rather, sorry. Take that line off that you just carved in. You don't want it. Double check the back of the head. That looks okay. I'll give it an added little oof back here by making that head come down and match the neck. Okay. Head's real flat, but I still haven't worked on the face much. So let's pull that forehead back a little bit more. We can go in and make that nose a lot bigger when we do. Okay. We're getting there. Above the ear, I want to trim a little bit because I don't want him to have bushy hair. If he's going bald, he don't usually have bushy hair in there. Not seen many bald men or going bald men have a lot of bushy hair above their ears, so we'll just trim it around, bringing that head in, watching how it sticks out in the back. Okay, we've left him a real jutting chin. We don't have to worry about that yet. Let's take our soft gouge. Keep checking the time. I don't want to go over. Like I said, I got a meeting tonight. We run a wood show every year, and I'm the president of the organization that puts it on. We're having our first meeting for next year's show today, so I don't want to be late. And that looks bad for the president to show up late. Okay, I'm going deeper and deeper on this face because I want to form his eye sockets. So what I'm going to do is looking to see if I already have it out, and I don't. I'm going to get out another gouge because I've got it situated in there. There it is. So now what I want to do, you know what, I do have it out. It's right Maybe not. Alright, it's hiding. Because I put it back. It's at number 11, fishtail, or not fishtail, number 11, stew by gouge. Okay, I want to make this round. And if I do that, I can push it back a little bit more and it'll look okay. This is a caricature after all, so don't worry about one size being a little bit bigger. We are exaggerating some things, not necessarily everything, but we are exaggerating some things on this guy. Look at his forehead, it's starting to look better. I've got that diamond shape I've got to get to, so at the upper above the ear, we're carving the diamond feature that I said. You got the head goes off this way and that way, and the bottom comes in that way. So see what we did on that one. We'll do the same thing over here. That diamond shape going to the head. So now just take your time to round that head a little bit more, because we're going to move this line closer to the middle where the head's going to be. So what that means is that everything has got to be shaped the way it's supposed to be. So in other words, if we shape the head, and then we come around and shape a little more, then we can flatten that top, which is going to be the bald part. Okay, so the forehead looks really pointed because we haven't carved in for the hair. So what I'm going to do, take about 3 or 4 cuts above the forehead to point that forehead back. We don't want it coming straight up, we want it leaning back there a little bit. We put in back our lines. Here's his sideburns. Yeah, we're down below the side of the sideburn right there. And go up above the hair, up above the ears, and follow that rounded line all the way around to his hair. Okay. Now we'll narrow this face down a little bit when we do this. I got tools laying everywhere and chips all over the place, making it hard to see. I apologize, give me a second or two. If I was working in Europe, I'd be slapped about 15 times every hour for putting these things in a different spot. So give me a minute. I get aggravated with chips everywhere. Normally I carve in my lap. When I do that, chips automatically just fall to the floor. I'm not carving in my lap now. I'm carving right in front of me, so on the table.
So is the widest part of that diamond, is it the cheekbones or is it the bottom of the nose?
So the widest part, which is from side to side, is the cheekbones. Those stick out on a skull more than anything else. So what you're going to be doing is trying to show that. Now, if you got a beard, you don't have to worry about that because that changes the configuration, changes the geometry. And so you've got the face, the widest part is right here. This is on a man. We're talking about a man because we're making this guy first date. So the widest part of the face is right here. It comes down from a triangle here to form a diamond here. I'm not showing you that, am I? Widest part is right here. So the head is a diamond up here, and the head is a diamond down here. So it basically goes like this, the widest part to the narrowest part at the neck. Does that make sense, Carol?
That's perfect, thank you.
You betcha. All right, I took my glove off. I better put it back on. Now I got all my tools piled up in this thing. I'll have to figure out what I'm doing. What I'm working on is his head. So what I want to do is I want to take a small V, and let me put a few of these away because I can see around. If I knew how to do all those fancy kind of editorial things, this would be a part of the video that went and I'd have it done in like 5 seconds. I don't know how to do all that, and I just have fun with video. I don't have fun a lot with editing. It's not fun, but I'm getting better at it all the time. So maybe one day in 4 or 5 years, I'll figure out how to do all that. I'll have it in the right spot. In the meantime, unfortunately, you got to put up with regular speed video and me putting where it needs to go. There we go. That's the one I wanted. I wanted a small V. Okay. I'm gonna cut in his sideburns at the bottom of the ear, and I'm just gonna follow that all the way around the head, just like I drew it. You know, when you start carving faces and anatomy, the professionals tell you, you need to have this book, you need to have this book, and you need to follow that. And I'm going, no, I just look at everybody that I see. And so sometimes I'll stare at somebody, and they'll look at me 2 or 3 times like, what's your problem? I don't got a problem. I'm just memorizing your face because I'm going to carve it. I was at the grocery store the other day. I'm going to take my knife now, and I'm going to just set those in. Here's the sideburn. I cut it out right here. I got a cut right there, and I got a cut over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the sideburn from the side of the face. Right in the middle of that sideburn, that cut I made, forward of that cut, make a stop cut. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to remove that front sliver of that sideburn right there. Not sure why the light is all of a sudden getting weird. I bet it's because it's getting light outside. It was not as much more sunny. See if that'll help. That's better. So I cut out this sideburn, and I'll do the same thing all the way around. Anyway, I started a story. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I saw this old guy, and he just had an attitude about it, like you know, he's here and he's doing his thing, and he's a fella. And anyway, I liked the way he looked. He had on overalls, and he had braids in his hair, and a big long beard, and a mountain man hat. And I thought, okay, when I check out, I'll wait on him, and I'll see if he'll let me get a picture of him. Well, I couldn't find him. I finally went out to my car, and I said, okay, no big deal, no big deal. I'm going home. I got it in my head. Well, then I see him coming out of the store, and I waited on him because he stopped talking to his friend in the truck. I waited and waited and waited, and finally said, I can't wait that long. I got ice cream. It's melting in the back. I better go. So I walked up to him, and he saw me walking up, and he looked at me kind of funny, and I introduced myself, and he didn't give me his name. He didn't want me to know his name, I guess. But I told him, I said, we had a conversation about his look, and I asked if I could take a picture of him just, you know, for reference. He goes, nope, I don't let anybody take a picture. I don't want my image out there. And I go, okay. All right, no big deal. We started talking. Both of us served in the military, so we were sharing stories like that, whatever. And finally he says, I guess you can take a picture of me. He said, what are you going to do with it? And I said, I'm going to make you famous. I'm going to carve a mountain man of you. He thought that was kind of funny. So he gave me his email address without giving me his name, and said he'd like to see it when I got done. So I got to do a mountain man, and I'll have to show it. The picture was laying back here, and I don't see it anymore, so I moved it somewhere. I'll figure out where it is, but I'll show it. Maybe that might be another one that we did. All right, so I've separated the sideburn from his face, and now I want to flatten just a little bit out because this is what's called the zygomatic arch. The zygomatic arch is the part of the bone outside of the eye socket where your glasses go, and it's where your body starts to. So right here is right above the widest part. Cheekbones are right in here, right there. That wide zygomatic arch is what starts to go in up to the point of the head. So we'll just trim a little bit off to thin that face, and trim a little bit off below where the jaw is. Okay. Trim a little bit more of the zygomatic arch here, trying to flatten that head just a little bit more, and then down below where the cheek is. Okay. Okay. Nose, this guy's going to have a squat nose. I'm going to follow the center line right here of the face. And I'm going to draw the triangle for his nose. When I say squat, it's kind of big and wide and fleshy. Okay, so I'm going to grab that soft gouge that I had, the small one, and I want to make this cut and this cut right up the side of the nose. So I'm just going to go right up, fairly deep. You see that? I made this cut right here, fairly deep. Same thing over here. That's why it's important to draw. If you don't draw, then you're at the mercy of your eyeball. Our eyeballs are deceptive. They can make us see things that aren't really there, or not see things that are. So I'm getting his cheekbones squared away. I want to take the corner of the nose off at about a 45-degree angle at one bottom, 45-degree angle on the other side. If you're not familiar with that, draw it in, because even I get them mixed up. So this one's too flat. Okay, see his nose? Okay, I want to take one more stab at going up the side. I want to make it a little bit deeper, because those eye sockets are going to be fairly deep when I get done with them. Here's the part where we're getting into where people get a little squidgy, because they don't like doing eyes. If you don't know, I got a video on carving the eye stick, and I think there's a couple of videos on there. Shows you how to carve eyes and practice on eyes, and then I've got one for full face. I would suggest you take that and go see it, because it's a very useful set of videos. Helps you be able to see how to do eyes. So now I'm going to deepen those eye sockets, because I went deep into the tear duct. So now I want to make the rest of it come to that tear duct, because the tear duct is the deepest part of your face. So right here, where that tear duct is on the eye, is where the corner of that eye is going to be. And I want to make sure they are just right across from each other. They can't be like this. They have to be straight across. Now, that doesn't mean your carving can't have an injury. If you're doing somebody who's had, something wrong with their eyes, it's your carving. But if you're doing it symmetrically and you're trying to get it to where it looks right, like most people are, then you want to put those where they need to go. I want to trim down the side, the eyebrows, because this is a really sharp line. I don't want it really that sharp, because I'm going to put some eyebrows in there. So I've got to leave it a little bit carved down. This is the bridge of the nose. That looks perfectly fine. I like them a little bit deeper, so I'm going to take a little bit off here, just a cut in there and a cut up to it. And then take off the sharp edges that you just cut in there. It makes that nose a little bit, that bridge of the nose a little deeper. All right, we're going to work on the top of the hat, and what I'm going to do that, cut off my sliver I left laying over here. I thought it was a brown streak of sap in the tree, in the wood. Okay, take that same cut that I did for the eyebrow, follow that groove that I did with the V-tool. I'm separating the head and the hair. Okay, and then what I want to do is all around the hair part, I'm going to come back and lay my knife, and I'm just going to trim those cuts to where the hair sticks out and the head goes under. And this wood just wants to crush on me, so I'm going to turn it over and do it this way. There's always another way to do it. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it ain't, but sometimes you want to do something and it doesn't want to work. It's okay. You have my permission and the permission of every other instructor out there to do it whatever way works for you. I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm here to show you how I do it, and if that works, we're in good shape. And if it doesn't work, then we'll help you find another way to do it. But the idea is for you to do your own carving, your own way, and not as a repeat of somebody else. Please don't try to repeat what I do. I don't want you to repeat what I do. I want you to find the best way for you to carve, not the best way for you to do what I'm doing. Now, having said that, when you start at college 101, you start painting the old masters, you're painting just like they did, because you gotta learn those skills. And so there's nothing wrong with learning those skills as long as you're willing to grow beyond them. If you learn how to carve or paint like Bob Ross does, and you never find your own groove, then you're only recreating something that somebody else already did. And for the most part, what I found, they did it better. When I try to repeat somebody, I look and people say, "Oh, that looks like Bob Ross." Well, I'm going, "Well, thank you, but that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for it looked like Eric Owens." But sometimes, to practice, you got to do that. I'll go to a class and I'll always buy 3 of them. I want 3 people or 3 carvings of the same rough out, because I'm going to do the first one like they tell me, and I'm going to learn everything I can from that instructor. I paid my money, I want to learn what I can. I drove all this way, I flew all this way, I hauled all my stuff, I got my attitude like, "Ooh, I'm ready to learn." And so I do that the first one. Then I take the second one and I see if I can change it a little bit my way, but still do it their way. And in the third way, I'm going to do exactly what I want. I'm going to paint it differently, I'm going to carve it differently, I'm going to make it look differently, because I'm learning. I picked up a book on Bob Ross not too long ago, and it said basically what he did when he painted pictures is before the show, he would practice one. So he's got an idea, he's going to do a beach scene, going to do a mountain scene with a big old tree. So he'll practice one just to make sure it works, just to make sure the symmetry is right and the picture's right and all that. And then he does the show where he does that painting again. And then after the show is over, he'll take another canvas, or he'll take that second one he did, and he'll make it perfect. And so even Bob Ross had to practice. As good as he was, he had to practice. And so I'm telling myself, I gotta practice. I kind of like this guy. He's got a really flat head on the top here, but that's okay. Watch what happens when I carve his forehead. I'm gonna go, my forehead, what I want to do is I want to leave this little line right here. I don't want to carve below that for the bulk. See that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in on that line, and I'm going to come in and curve. I'm going to come in and curl my knife right above that, and that gives me the forehead sticking out and the head being pushed back just a little bit, and it gives me room. Where the end of that knife needs sharpened big time. So let's grab another one. Okay. Oh, that's better. So there, look at those beetly eyebrows. I left them big because I wanted them big. I'm going to make them smaller here in just a little bit. Now I'm going to bring the rest of that forehead up, so that somewhere in the middle of his head, the back part of the skull and the front part of the skull come together. So it gives me a rounded there, and then I can take off those edges, because you don't want square head. There was a movie years ago about oh gosh, I can't remember what it was, but it was the Cole and the Younger gang. And the James gang, so the robbers back in Missouri, and they had brothers playing the brothers. So the Quaid brothers were playing one faction, and I can't remember the others. Somebody correct me. They'll tell me what it is. Anyway, one of the lines guy had in there, he hated Yankees. He hated Northerners. And he shot one that looked at him and called him Yankee Squareheads. I always remember that squarehead insult or line. Every time I hear about somebody doing something stupid on the news, you feel like, it's a squarehead. Anyway, we are looking at 10 minutes to 2, 10 minutes to 3. And I'm almost done with this face, but I'm not done. So your homework, because I usually leave about 10 minutes of talking or asking questions or discussions or whatever. So we're going to stop now at the end of number 3, and we'll do number 4 in 2 weeks. But that's your homework. Finish everything. Do as much as you can of everything you got. We're going to put suspenders on him that come over the top and come to the front. We're going to give him a bow tie in those suspenders, and then we're going to finish the face. Tired of hearing me talk? Time for you to talk. Questions, comments, complaints, concerns, discussions, cussings, whatever. Floor is open.
Awesome tutorial, Eric. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Appreciate the compliment there. Nice to get feedback.
That is great. Not tired of hearing you talk at all.
I got a kind of a scratchy southern voice, so sometimes I don't enunciate properly or use the wrong word or whatever, but I can't be anything but me, so.
Well, of course, try to keep up and you can't keep up with your instructor. You never can, and you probably never should, but
Probably not, yeah. I live in Idaho, and Ryan Olson from the CCA is a good friend of mine, and we've carved together a lot. And when he carves, I'm nowhere near as good as he is. He's been carving about 15 years longer than I have. And when I take a class from him, when I follow him along, whether he's sitting here or I'm watching him on TV or whatever, I just can't keep up. I just watch and follow the video, make some notes or whatever, and then I just I do it when I get done. But it's one of those things. You got to go at your speed. You can't follow anybody else and go their speed. It doesn't work. You'll end up making a lot of mistakes.
so I'm doing it the separate head. I'm still going to have a little trouble getting his neck to
fit in there.
Maybe it's too early to worry about it, but
right. Yeah, mine's tapered. This one that I cut out is tapered, so I'm going to have to take a lot out. But one of the things to do before you do that is take them out here. So if you take it out here, so in instance, if I wanted to carve here and started taking this out, re-drill it or whatever, I want to carve this because this has more limitations than that. If I make a mistake, I can cut this off right here and put a dowel on it and run it in there, and you'd never know the difference.
sure.
With this, I've got this, right there, I've got the neckline drawn, so that's about as wide as I want that neck. But now I've got to figure out how to put collar in there. So if I'm going to put a collar in there, what I want to do, and let's say I do it and I screw it up, I can still cut this off and make him a shorter torso. So if I make the mistake here, that's where I'm going to make it. What I don't want to do is make a mistake here and have to fix both of them. Do one, do this one right here with the collar, because the front of his collar comes, here's the tabs on the collar, right? Shaping of an M. Here's the collar pieces. There's the part that goes inside the neck, so or around the neck. This is the neck part. So when you cut this and cut all this back in here, then you can get that in there. You can go almost all the way out to the edge of that. And if you wanted to, then you could leave his neck as bulky as you want. But again, that's your choice on how you do that. Just realize it doesn't take much on the lip. You don't have a lot of wood here, so it doesn't take much to make a mistake when you didn't plan on it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I'll cover that on the next video because we're just about done with this, and we're going to paint him on the hopefully. Well, I'm going to hope to get to the point where I'm painting mine next time.
Okay.
But I can cover that, and I can cover this because a lot of what we did here, we also did here. So that's the same thing that we started. We started out with that square head, with the exception of the noodle coming out of the bottom. We started out with that square head. It's the same thing.
Yeah, sure. It all translates from one to the other.
Yes, it does.
Um,
It does.
and, and
And I'm assuming, although I call these beginners, I'm assuming these are most people watching are somewhat experienced. They're not, may not have carved many heads as I have, but you probably carved many other things that I've never carved. And so I'm good at this one because I've done a lot, and you're good at what you do because you do a lot of those. So it's just one of those things about you hope that your skills translate. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you're learning again a new way. Nothing wrong with that. Not at all.
right. Well, I think it's all gonna. I can see it all working out in my head, but you know how that works.
I do, yeah. We did a carving competition in our club some years ago, and we said you get points for blue ribbons, you get points for entries, yada yada yada. And the idea was to win a trophy, and I've got one of them sitting up here. You earn, you had to put a carving in. We had 5 sections in our show. We had birds, animals, caricatures, miscellaneous, and ethnic. So you had to put one carving in each of the 5 sections. You can put as many as you want, but you put one carving in each section. So it's called the 5 section challenge. So I did a bird. Now, I don't usually do birds. It's not my favorite thing to do. I love the way birders do it, but I can't recreate what they do. Anyway, the idea was, okay, I'm an expert in, say, birds. I've won national awards in birds, say, the person has. And our prospectus for our show says if you're an expert in one carving category, you're an expert in everything.
Okay.
And several years of doing that, we realized, man, that can't be right. I can't spend all my time on cowboys and be expected to do that same level of a bird or a bear. I can't do it. And so we had to change our prospectus that said if you've not won a blue ribbon in another category, you can be whatever you want. So if you won blue ribbons, you enter the open, master, advanced in that one. You want to do a bear, but you've never carved a bear or you've never won a blue ribbon, then you can go ahead and admit yourself as not an expert in that level. So you could be
Sure.
an expert over here in birds, and then you could enter as an intermediate in animals or intermediate in humans. We had to change that because the old way of thinking was once you're an expert, you're an expert. And we're realizing that, people specialize. And those of us, I don't do just cowboys. I do Santas, Vikings, gnomes, whatever. But I certainly don't do animals and birds very often. I could not be considered an advanced open master, whatever, in those. And so we had to change our way of thinking that allowed, because what we got was people that just wouldn't enter. That
Sure.
challenge we did, everybody that got involved, everybody who entered got a patch. And then there were three different awards you could win. You could win the top one, and then you could win the second, you could win the third. And so we got more people. Most people would put in 1 or 2 or 3 carvings that they had done at the show or the club or whatever. We had people putting in 10 carvings that had never put in more than 3 at a time. So it boosted our numbers artificially because we only did that for 2 or 3 years. And then the person who carved the trophy didn't want to do it, didn't want to carve more trophies. Nobody else wanted to pick it up. Nobody else wanted to order the patches and do the judging and all that. So we kind of dropped it, but it was fun to see people step out of their comfort zone. I'm really good here. What if I did this? I've never done a Santa, but I've done a lot of Vikings. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you do a Santa just as well as you do a Viking? That was the challenge. It was a boost and a butt kicking for some of our people who had never done anything differently. They came in and all they wanted to do was gnomes. Well, have you tried something else? Would you be willing to try something else, and how would that look? So it was fun. I wish we could do that again, but we've got a whole lot of brand new members. Our older members are getting up there. They're not going to do 5 carvings for a show. So have to get our younger people to do it.
Really interesting idea though, and quite a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens when you drink a lot of beer and sit around thinking ideas. You come up with these ideas that some of them kind of work, some of them don't. That was one we thought, how do we get people involved in because that one year we were talking on the evening of our banquet. How do we get more people to enter the carving? Well, give them a reason to, it worked for 2 or 3 years, and then we didn't do it again after that. So it might. We were talking the other night, and that was one of the ideas we wanted to try. And the other one we wanted to try was to do something like the CCA has done, where they do a whole scene and everybody picks a piece to fit into that scene, like West Town or a 1930s scene or whatever. So we'll
got a-
see if that works.
Group that I carve with on Thursdays,